Hi, I'm Jay.
And I'm John.
And we're Bucket List Travellers.
And in this video, we're going to answer the question, is Nicaragua safe?
So we're going to talk about 5 common Nicaragua safety myths, and then we're going to give you 5 safety tips for Nicaragua.
So let's get into it. Now, firstly, in all our comments that we receive from you all in our YouTube channel, we get questions or comments saying, oh, Nicaragua's not safe, or there's too many guns, or things like that. So we're going to start off by dispelling some of these myths that we get quite regularly. So what's the first one on the list, Jay?
Okay, so the first safety myth about Nicaragua is that Nicaragua is full of guns. Now, we can say that that is absolutely not the case. Nicaragua is not a country where all of the residents have guns. They do have reasonably tight gun restrictions. The only guns we ever saw were guns that were carried by police officers.
Yeah, and look, in Central America, you basically need to get used to police carrying arms.
And they're big guns, like they're big rifles, I guess. You don't see them too much. So generally we saw police when we were living in Granada, mainly in festivals as crowd control. The police were very friendly to us, so it's not an issue. In Managua, you do see a few more police officers, and they are guarding major points that they believe are particular areas of concern, so maybe around bridges. But again, we never saw any sort of gun violence when we were there, and we didn't hear of any gun violence. So in terms of the gun safety, we feel that Nicaragua is a very safe country to visit.
Yeah, and there are other countries in Central America that do have gun issues. We can say that Nicaragua is not one of those countries.
So one thing that's not really related to safety, but it is a myth that comes up again and again, is that everyone in Nicaragua is poor. Now, this is not the case. On average, Nicaragua is a low socioeconomic country, but within the country there is wide variations. So there is a Nicaraguan billionaire. What's his name?
Pellas.
Yeah, and so he's done a lot in the country to fund hospitals and create a better life for the people of Nicaragua.
Yeah, and there's an emerging middle class in Nicaragua. So particularly in Managua, the capital, there are a lot of people in office jobs, and call centers are very big. International call centers are based out of Managua as well. And so you are getting a lot of people with more disposable income these days.
When we were traveling around Nicaragua by bus, we were seeing a lot of locals on their phones as they were commuting here and there. And a lot of people have phones that are much better than ours.
Yeah.
There's definitely people that have a lot of wealth in Nicaragua. There are people that are on low wages as well, so there is a bit of a variation there. But to say that everyone in Nicaragua is poor is definitely incorrect.
And why we talk about the everyone is poor myth in Nicaragua is because it's related to our third myth, which is everyone's out to rob you.
What we really should make clear is that just because you're poor does not make you a criminal. Poverty is going to be more of a motivating factor. But in saying that, in order to become a criminal, you need to have some level of malicious intent. And most people that we've met in Nicaragua are just really honest, hardworking, and just lovely people that do not mean anyone harm. So I think the thought that if you're poor, you're going to rob someone, I think that really comes down to the level of intent of the people that are saying that. Like, I wouldn't go out and rob Bill Gates because he has more money than me. And likewise, if someone's poor, most people aren't so poor that they can't feed themselves. So you've just got to be mindful that poverty does not equate to being a criminal. The other thing around that is, even though poor people aren't all criminals, you still don't want to make yourself a target.
Yeah, and look, with any country where there is financial inequity or disparities in wealth, there will always be some people who are looking to take opportunities, and there will be people looking to rob you. But that's the same with any country. So as Jay was saying, like, you don't want to make yourself a target. It's just common sense when you're traveling or even living in a country with a wide distribution of wealth. You want to blend in with the locals. You don't want to have a flashy car in a country where cars are relatively rare or a luxury.
Yeah, and so there are some crimes of opportunity. You can't discount that. Like, if someone just sees a wallet sitting there with a lot of money in it, then there's going to be the temptation there to just take it if they don't think they're going to get caught. You're not going to have violent crimes, I guess, as much, we've found. I guess the other thing that people have told us when traveling around Nicaragua is don't just have your phone in your hand, especially in festivals and that sort of thing where there's a lot of people. We're actually currently in Spain at the moment, and we hear there's a lot of pickpockets in Spain. In any country in the world, you're going to have some criminal activity, and you don't want to make things easier for people than they have to be. Be mindful of that and keep yourself safe. Generally, don't think everyone's a criminal.
Another crime of opportunity that we unfortunately experienced firsthand was a home invasion when we stayed in Granada. Thankfully, we had nothing stolen other than a peaceful night's sleep. We do stress again that this is not a crime unique to Nicaragua, and we know other expats who have lived in Nicaragua for 20 years or more and have never had this occur to them. We've made a video sharing our experience of this, so be sure to check that one out for more information on crime in Nicaragua.
So what's the next myth we want to dispel?
So the next myth about Nicaragua is to do with health safety. And the myth is that you shouldn't eat the street food.
Oh, what a mistake that would be.
Oh, definitely. Now, if you miss out on the street food in Nicaragua, you're missing out on a large chunk of the culture, and you are depriving your taste buds of some really delicious food. So we have been eating predominantly either our own cooking or the street food while we were living in Nicaragua for a year and a half. And did we get sick at all?
Well, we did, but it wasn't from the street food. So
it was from our own cooking.
It was from our own cooking and poor food preparation. And one example, I left some rice out overnight and then I ate it the next morning.
Which is a fail.
Yeah, and that's a fail. That's just silly. But when it comes to the street food, we didn't have any problems at all, and we've got street food all the time.
Yeah, and what really impressed me with one street food vendor in particular, there was one where he was just so meticulous about the cleanliness, and especially being in COVID, he was spraying everything. He had hand sanitizer for us, and I felt very confident in the food hygiene given the level of care that he was putting into the health safety. I would say there is a lot of chicken in Nicaragua, and we have been served some undercooked chicken from time to time. That's been mainly in restaurants rather than the street food. So, you know, when you're having chicken in particular, just eyeball it and make sure there's not any pink bits.
Yeah.
And if there are pink bits, then just let them know and they'll go back and cook it a bit more for you, and then it's fine.
Yeah. And like in other countries, you're told not to eat the salad
Or drink the tap water. Not eat the salad is because it's washed in the water.
Yeah. In Nicaragua, 95% of the water is potable, meaning that you can drink the tap water. It's perfectly safe. We drank the tap water pretty much everywhere in Nicaragua. Most cities have potable water, and we were fine. We were never sick from the water. So, and then that goes with the salads as well. So
yeah, the food safety, I guess.
Yeah.
So when you are in new places in Nicaragua, it is helpful to just ask around and make sure that the water is actually safe to drink. So particularly around beach areas and around countryside kind of areas, the water might not be safe to drink. And in the other side of Lake Nicaragua to Granada and the main cities around Boaco, the water isn't safe to drink, but they're generally places where tourists aren't going anyway, so most of the time you're going to be fine.
Yeah, so Leon, Granada, Managua, San Juan del Sur, I think, is also fine for drinking tap water. So they're all the main areas anyway, so for tourists.
Yeah. So maybe not Ometepe Island, and depending on how far away from the main town of San Juan del Sur you are, you might need to drink bottled water instead. But if you ask around, you should be fine. Okay, and our final safety myth about Nicaragua is that everywhere is dangerous.
No. Yeah, the majority of places in Nicaragua are very safe. So we've traveled extensively in Nicaragua. We've been to all the touristy areas, so San Juan del Sur, Granada,
Ometepe Island.
And the majority of these places are perfectly safe day and night. Now, a few areas that we would like to point out where we've heard stories but haven't been involved ourselves of any safety issues are in Granada. The lakefront area is known for muggings, so just be mindful, make sure you're in large groups, don't walk alone along those areas. There's also in San Juan del Sur, at night time along the beach, we have heard of stories of muggings there. These come down to common sense. So if you're in poorly lit areas on your own at night, you might be more of a target. But
yeah, and I guess if you're drinking late at night and you're looking a bit vulnerable, then that can be a concern. So for us, we don't really drink too much, and we're old people, so we generally only go out during the day mainly. We've found it very safe at those times. Around Managua, we've heard stories of some places being unsafe. So the Mercado Oriental, that's a place that we've heard does have a few robberies and that sort of thing. We haven't been there personally, but that's an area to, I guess, just keep your guard up a little bit more. But by and large, most places are safe. So you should feel perfectly fine being in Nicaragua and just taking your normal safety precautions.
yeah, and the locals in Nicaragua pride themselves on how safe the country is.
Yeah, definitely. So when we have been doing silly stuff like waving our phones around or like having our bags not close to us on buses, generally there's a local that will pull you aside and go, oh, maybe you shouldn't do this. This is giving you a bigger chance of being mugged. So it's really nice that there are locals out there looking out for you.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our safety tips of Nicaragua. So we have 5 safety tips. The first one is to beware of pickpockets and crimes of opportunity.
Yeah, so as we mentioned before, if you are in busy areas in the city, like bus stations, just be mindful of where your valuables are. Have deep pockets if you can, or pockets that zip up, just so you're not at risk of getting pickpocketed. And also with your phones, just be discreet with them. If you're waving them about, then you do become a potential target, so just be discreet.
Yeah, and I guess that's the same sort of safety tip that we would use in most places around the world. I've had a friend that has had her phone stolen out of her hand when she was in London. Definitely there are crimes of opportunity everywhere in the world. Nicaragua is no different.
Yeah.
Our second safety tip is don't park your car on the street at night. A lot of houses will have their own internal car parks, or you can find car parks that have security guards and that sort of thing. And if you're going to a supermarket or a major shopping centre, particularly in Managua, you will find car parks in the shopping centres which are guarded by security guards. Basically, it's the same sort of thing around crimes of opportunity. If you're leaving your car out at night, then there's more chance of it being broken into. And again, that's a common thing around the world. I've had my car broken into at night in Australia a couple of times, and that's not a nice experience. So keep your car locked up at night, somewhere safe, somewhere that's secure and guarded, and you should be fine. Our third safety tip is to be aware of dogs.
Yeah, and this goes for pretty much anywhere in Central America. So you will find that there are a lot of dogs everywhere.
Yeah, and particularly stray dogs on the street. I think in Nicaragua, the risk of rabies is reasonably low, but at the same time, you don't know what diseases dogs are carrying, and you don't necessarily know the temperament of all of the dogs. I think there's less dog training going on in Nicaragua compared to countries like Australia and the US. So your risk of being bitten by a dog is not zero. I was actually bitten by a dog in Honduras. That was not a pleasant experience, and it left me a bit shaky around dogs since then.
And that was at a hostel, and the dog was the hostel owner's dog.
Yeah. And we've had a Nicaraguan friend be bitten by her own dog because it got spooked by another dog. So it happens a bit. It's not uncommon. It's probably not uncommon around the world. I think dog bites in the US are quite high as well. Be particularly aware in Nicaragua around dogs just because there are stray dogs everywhere, and a lot of people keep dogs as security guards for their homes. Our fourth Nicaraguan safety tip is to beware of scorpions.
Oh, scorpions, the bane of my existence. So you will get scorpions pretty much anywhere you go in Nicaragua, and particularly in the wet season, when it gets rainy, that's when they come out, and they're nocturnal, so they'll come out at night. So thankfully we didn't have any scorpions in our beds. We never got stung, but we have heard stories where people have been stung in their beds at night. So
Yeah, and being Australians, we tend to walk around bare feet a lot, and that's not something you particularly want to do in Nicaragua because of the scorpions. And also beware that they hide in little crevices and stuff, or anywhere warm. So if you've got a suitcase, don't leave it open, like zip it up, or if you've got washing, just beware that there aren't any scorpions that have decided to find a little home there. With your shoes, maybe just put them upside down and tap them a little bit before you put them on, just in case a scorpion's gone in there at night. A little bit scary, but generally we've been fine.
You just need to be vigilant. So there was, when we were in Playa Madera, it would have been one scorpion a night just getting to the little villa that we were staying at. That was a little bit frustrating. And I think the closest shave was, we were staying in this farmhouse in Hinatepe, and we were watching TV, and there was a scorpion in the curtains.
Yeah, we just saw it out the corner of our eye, just creeping
only a
up.
foot away from me. So I'm glad I saw it out of the corner of my eye.
So I guess if you're from Arizona in the US or somewhere like that, then you might be used to scorpions already. But for Australians, we've never really been exposed to scorpions before, so that's been a bit of a shock for us.
Yeah. We prefer spiders any day.
Yeah, but one cool thing about scorpions is that they actually glow under UV light. So if you do spend a significant time in Nicaragua, then consider getting yourself a UV light so you can see how they glow. Now, our final Nicaraguan safety tip is to wear sunscreen.
Yeah, so we're very close to the equator in Nicaragua, so it's hot and the sun is strong, so it pays to have some sunscreen.
Yeah, so being from Australia, we thought we'd be fine because we're generally very sun safe. The sun seems to be at a whole new level in Nicaragua, so we find even walking around for 10 minutes is enough to get burnt. So in colonial cities like Granada, the light's just bouncing off all the buildings and it really retains the heat. The sun just gets to you, and I guess there's not a lot of shade around either. If you don't wear sunscreen, then you are most likely to get burnt. So we saw a lot of red-looking people when we were around Nicaragua. Don't be one of those people.
In this age, COVID safety needs to be considered when travelling abroad. As of December 2021, less than 40% of Nicaraguans have had the chance to be vaccinated through the COVAX program. It is hard to get a good understanding of the extent of the issue, as accurate case numbers are hard to come by. We used online news confidencial.com.ni as our main source of COVID-related news when we were in the country, and there have been reports of hospitals being overwhelmed over the last year. To enter Nicaragua, you need to have a negative PCR test result, and we recommend that you are fully vaccinated before you visit.
So we'd be remiss to not mention the political situation in Nicaragua in our safety video. As tourists, if you keep out of the political situation, you will be fine. There was civil unrest in 2018, but that has now passed, and so you shouldn't be affected as a tourist by the political situation in Nicaragua. Anyway, we hope you've enjoyed this Nicaragua safety video and that we've given you some helpful tips so that you're more aware of the safety situation in Nicaragua.
Yeah, so our verdict would be yes, Nicaragua is safe. It is safe to visit. It's just like any other country. When you are visiting a country, just have common sense, mind your valuables, don't go out alone at night in uncommon areas. You'll be fine. You'll have a great time.
We make a lot of videos about Nicaragua in particular, as well as our travels around the world. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe.
And give it a like and leave us a comment, because we look at every comment and we love to hear from you.
We are Bucket List Travellers.
See you next time.